everyone. Welcome back to the Healing Words podcast. Today's guest is Grayson Heilig. He's the author of Breathe, Eat, Hoop, Grow, a memoir of his experience as a father of a micro-preemie. His son Grayson was born at just 26 weeks due to severe preeclampsia while they were living in Cancun, Mexico. He measured only 12 inches and weighed 1.6 pounds. Brian joins us today to share their incredible story and to update us on their journey. Welcome, Brian, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Pamela. Appreciate being here and taking the time to share our story.
It's an awesome story. Let's go to the beginning of the beginning. Tell us, okay, so you're married to your high school sweetheart. We all love those stories, Diane.
Yeah.
So tell us what your life looked like up to your life with Diane looked like up to 2016.
Yeah. So we met in high school. We were 15 years old. That was a while ago. And we really started connecting and actually living together in 1995.
Mhm.
From there, we both come from divorced families, and we wanted to kind of take our time and just be slow with everything. And that transcended into finally we got engaged. And after about 6 years, Diana will know exactly because she was like, "All right, it's time." We got married. We were 27 years old, I want to say. I should know this, shouldn't I? Kind of good. But yeah, 27. And then we just lived our life. We were very, very fortunate to be able to travel all over the world. And at one point, we traveled to Mexico and we went through a presentation for a timeshare. And I said, I'll buy it if you give me a job. And I was
Mhm.
kind of kidding, but they said yes. And we thought, first of all, did we just buy a timeshare? I don't know. And then second, are we moving to Mexico? And a year later, we moved to Mexico. That was in Puerto Vallarta. And now we're, 29, 30 years old. And we were just having the time of our life. Everything was going great. And at some point we were like, oh, we should probably have kids. We do everything like we take a long time to do everything. And so we just said, listen, we'll just go for it. We're going to try. If we get pregnant, great. If not, no big deal. And that turned into 5 years, 6 years, and we had moved back to the States at that time. And Diana's like, okay, look, something's up. So we both got checked out, and we just found out that she wasn't producing as many eggs, and the eggs that she was producing were weak, if you will. I don't know the technical term, but they weren't as fertile, let me say that. And so now it was like, okay, wait a minute, we need to get a little bit more serious about this. And chose to do, or she chose, we chose to do a round of IVF in the States. And it was the day of implantation. So, we extracted the eggs. I did my part. We let them cook a little bit. And it was the morning of implantation. And the doctor called and said, don't come. The eggs, no embryos were created. They didn't make it. So
Mhm.
that kind of started our wait a minute, this is like it got real, and we the doctor was giving us a bunch of different options and we just weren't hearing it at that moment. It was just way too much to handle. So
Mhm.
we continued on with our lives, and someone at work actually said, hey, listen, I don't know if you know this, but we have 3 children that we fostered to adopt. And I didn't know that you could do that. We didn't know anything. We just had all these assumptions about fostering and no idea that you could foster to adopt. So we said, go to the orientation, and lo and behold, there we are 6 weeks later, foster parents. And the agency knew that we wanted to foster to adopt. 9 days later, we had a 7-day-old baby, Eva, a little girl, and we, took care of her until, unfortunately, at 5 months. I mean, unfortunate for us, good for the parents and the baby. She had to go back and live with her parents. So after 5 months, we gave up Eva to go back with her parents, and that
Wow.
totally devastated us. I mean, it was just like, okay, we're done. We're not going to have kids. At that couple of years later, the same group that I was working with in Puerto Vallarta, they called and said, hey, listen, we're going to do it again in Cancun. Do you want to come? And I said, let me talk to Diana. And one of our dear friends, that lived in Cancun was actually the acupuncturist for an IVF doctor. And he said, look, this doctor has like an 80% success rate. He's phenomenal. So Diana said, look, I'll go. And this was 2016. I'll go if we can do IVF again. And so it was very possible there because it's a seventh of the cost. And
Mm,
the clinic that we went to and the IVF doctor that we work with, in the lobby, there's a bunch of people from all over the world. It's not people that live in Cancun per se. So it was, people do this. We had no idea. But lo and behold, she gets pregnant. And so we're excited. At this point, we're 41 years old.
mhm.
And just because it was IVF and we're older, it was a very high risk pregnancy. So the doctor was taking her blood pressure almost seemed like every day, taking blood work every week, just making sure that she's good. She was pretty much on bed rest. And so that kind of now we enter our story, of the book, if you will. Um,
Okay.
and that was, we're halfway through the pregnancy, essentially, just over halfway at 25 weeks,
Mhm.
and she develops severe preeclampsia.
Wow.
And, we don't know what that is, but her blood pressure shot way up and she was vomiting. And the doctor said, go to the hospital, I'll be there. And so her blood pressure was not coming down. And he finally made the call. He said, look, we have to deliver the baby to save Diana's life. And
Wow.
I couldn't comprehend it. I'm like, deliver the baby. Like we just took the, first baby bump picture,
Five
like,
months. You're halfway there.
yeah, like what? I don't get it. I just totally didn't understand. You're right.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, so she delivers.
Yep. So it was, she had to wait a little, like 4 days. They were giving her injections and stuff for the baby's lungs to develop, and she made it to like 26 weeks and 0 days. Like it was right on that 26 weeks. She delivers the baby. They immediately put him into the NICU, and
Okay.
then her body started shutting down, and she goes into the ICU. And so I have
Wow.
Diana, same floor in the ICU, and Grayson's in the NICU, and I'm just like, what's happening?
My goodness. Your state of mind then. What is going on with you? Because this is like totally not what you expect.
Right. Yeah. Nobody puts, preeclampsia and micro-preemie in their birth plan, so
Right,
I didn't
right,
I didn't know my state of mind was, I hadn't slept in 4 days and, my whole world is there. I don't know what to do, and
you're not home. You're in another country.
yeah, we're in another country,
Right.
we one of the biggest issues that we had is the communication because when you reach that level in the hospital, no doctor speaks English. And so we didn't really speak that much Spanish, especially medical Spanish, especially NICU and ICU Spanish. It's like
Right,
next
right.
level. So we didn't really know what was going on. And I remember, just a total helpless feeling. Both mothers, my mom and her mom, I told the news to, and our parents, dad and everything. But her mom and my mom just jumped on a flight immediately, and they were there, and they were there. They were able to make it the day of delivery.
Okay.
So that helped a lot, to have that support. But still, it was just like it was literally minute by minute. We didn't know what was happening.
Okay, let's back up for a second. I know for our listeners, viewers who may not have heard the term micro-preemie, I think we all know what preemies are. Explain micro-preemie to us.
Yeah, so a micro-preemie is a baby that is either born prior to 26 weeks or under 800 grams. And so
Okay.
Grayson was 730 grams, 12 inches long. He was like a little guy. To put it
Okay.
in perspective, if you want, it's like, about 4 to 5 bananas for the weight.
Wow.
And then you consider like you go to Subway and get a foot long.
Yeah,
That's how
that's
long
it.
her whole body was. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So some of the issues that your wife had, how long was she in ICU?
She was in there a couple days until they were
Okay.
able to stabilize her blood pressure. Her organs started so preeclampsia. That's what happens. There's urine in the blood. There's urine in the blood. There's something going on with the urine, and your organs start to like swell and shut down. So that's
Right.
what was happening with her. She everything was inflamed. She had water in her lungs. She had, her major organs were just swollen, basically massively inflamed. And so
Right.
they were able to, in the ICU, get that to some kind of normalcy.
Hmm.
And it wasn't for days after Grayson was born that she was able to even meet him. So,
Wow.
and there was a lot going on with Grayson at that time that,
Yeah.
I mean, there were visiting hours. Um,
Wow.
the NICU is different there. You can't just be there. It's 3 1 hour, if that, times
Hmm.
a day. And then Diana has visiting hours, and they didn't correlate. It was just a mess. It was a mess.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, so you had what I call destiny helpers. What I truly believe is that if you're going through something, God will send people around you to bolster you, to help you, to guide you. So give us an idea of some of your destiny helpers.
I mean, there's no way that we could have gotten through what we did without the Destiny Helpers. I mean, we had first off we had Devin, Uncle Dev, we call him. Devin did massive research because there were other helpers too that would reach out to us, like NICU nurses all over. We went live. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. Let me start with Michael. So our friend Michael, Mike Rodriguez, he was like on the spot, like Johnny on the spot was with us from day one, and people were asking him questions. People started asking us questions like privately, and we could
Mhm.
not get everybody fast enough. So we did a live interview, and Mike kind of interviewed us because we were catatonic, and just ask a lot of the questions that people had so that we can tell everybody at once kind of what the situation was. So
That's a good idea.
for us, social media was a godsend. And
Yeah.
so he's our first helper. And then from that, we had NICU nurses from literally around the world reach out to us privately and say, look, we see the pictures of Grayson and he's not necessarily in the best position. Do they have a proper isolate? He was in an open bed with saran wrap and a heat lamp. And I'd never been in a NICU before, so I didn't know that that wasn't normal. And
Right.
so that's just what they have in Mexico. So the nurses, they reached out to us, and then Uncle Devin. So Devin was there, and we got multiple people saying if you could move him to the States, he would be have a much better chance of thriving. And I was like, we both were like, move, like transport this 1 pound six, 1 pound six, 1.6 pound baby. Like, how does that even happen? So
Right.
and we weren't in the mental capacity to try to research and figure that out. So Devin, he spent way over 40 hours researching how to do it, what to do it, what hospitals we could go to, like the whole thing. It was incredible. Um, and then from there, our friend Roxy, she was on a cruise, came back from the cruise, and like her inbox or her Facebook feed was flooded with our story, and she had an actual connection at the Miami hospital for the international division, like you can't imagine. And so she got us in touch with Gina, and Gina at the hospital said, "Okay, I'm on it. Here's the process. Boom, boom, boom." And it just started. All the pieces started coming together. The puzzle. It was amazing.
Now, when you get to the Florida hospital, that doctor gave kudos to the doctor in Mexico for a number of reasons. Can you detail that for us?
Yeah. So, oh man, you're gonna get me. So,
Okay.
okay, it's all good. So, before we could move him, our doctor in Mexico, Dr. Campos, talk about an angel. He's definitely in there. But so Dr. Campos spoke to Miami. Of course, they can all speak Spanish, so that helped. And so they both collaborated to make sure that Grayson was stable enough to even travel. And then once we got to Miami, I showed pictures of the NICU in Mexico, and they were like, wait a minute, what? Yeah, I remember studying some of the doctors. I remember studying in school the way NICUs used to be like 30 years ago. He created tools from tongue depressors and nipples and would that use that to smack Grayson back to breathing again. And they were like, we studied about that. I can't believe you actually saw it. I had a picture of it. And they said that, in Mexico, Dr. Campos saved his life, but now that he's here, he'll thrive. So
Wow.
he saved his life. He basically kept him alive, but now in
Wow.
Miami, he'll thrive. So yeah, I was like, woo, because you never know if you're making the right choice. You're like, is this what happens if something happens and I shouldn't have moved him? I mean, it was just an emotional roller coaster.
I cannot even imagine. What was your faith like during all of this?
So that is something that developed, I would say, throughout this experience.
Yeah.
But before it's easier to go backwards, right? So before I believed in God. I wasn't a churchgoer really per se. I had never read the Bible. Just kind of believed there was something bigger. And then when you go through something like that, and you come out on the other end and you look back and you take and tie all the little pieces that came together, you're like, okay, wow. Like there's no other way that this could have happened. No way. I mean,
Right.
you can't even make up all the different coincidences and how things came together. So that prompted me. We went to church after we got Grayson in the hospital. We had gone to church, and it all just happened. It was like, hey, we're doing baptism in the ocean, next Sunday, and I was like, yes, boom, it's got to happen.
We're there.
We're there.
Right.
So that's part of this mission and why I even wrote the book, by the way. I don't know if you know that piece of the puzzle, but
No, I don't know that piece.
yeah, so people said the story's so dramatic and so crazy. People that lived through the story with us, our friend Jolie. So there's another one. She said, hey, you should write a book. I mean, you got to write a book. It's crazy. And I'm like, write a book? I've never written a book. I don't know, but okay, I'll write a book someday. And the more and more we told people the story, the more people were like, you should write a book. Like, this should be a movie. This is insane. And so the seed was kind of planted. And I remember talking to Diana going, hey, maybe we should write the book, And she said, I think we should. I think it'd be really an amazing account to put it all in a story. And so we procrastinated. I did for years. Someday I'll write a book, someday. And there we are now, settled. We're in our home in Orlando. Grayson's alive and doing well and thriving and all that. And so we go to church, and the pastor said, hey, have you ever asked God what he wants you to do with your life? And I never even contemplated that before. I always want what I want, like I want this, I want that. And so he said, let's do it right now. Close your eyes and ask, see what happens. And I'm like, okay. So I said, okay, God, what do you want me to do with my life? It was instant. Write the book, speak about it, and transform lives.
Wow.
And so, like, very shortly after, I wrote the first word to turn into the first sentence, paragraph, chapter. And it took a while, but we got it done finally. And that's now I'm
Wow.
kind of in phase two. Speak about it.
So let's talk about the title, Breathe, Eat, Hoop, Grow.
Yeah.
Was that your original title?
So yeah, the one thing that we were able to understand from Campos in Mexico is that Grayson needed to breathe, eat, and poop. That was the thing, right? And it sounds kind of like duh, but that was the only thing he conveyed to us. We need mom's milk right away. He's got to poop. He's got to do this. He's got to just think, okay, fine. So we kind of created a song, Breathe, Eat, Poop, and Grow, so Grayson can come home. And it was like our mantra. Every day we would sing this to him. And so when the book idea came out and I started writing, I mean, there was no other title. It had to be Breathe, Eat, Poop, and Grow. Like,
on the cover has a picture of Diana's hand and Grayson's holding her hand. That's a
yeah.
dream. Wow.
And so when I took that picture, people would see that picture and they were just like, blown away with in awe of the tiny little
Tiny.
hand, right? And so then it was like there's no other way. It's got to be that for the cover. It just it was
Exactly.
it was never ever a second choice.
I want to go back to where you were in church and the pastor asked you, have you asked God? Because what he wants to do with your life. I would think that not only would that be the last thing in your mind, but you, after coming through what you've come through, like you just need to rest right now. Like,
Yeah,
I just need to calm my central nervous system right now.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so interestingly, that you know, like I said, we're doing growing our faith after this. After, I wish I had it
Mhm.
before, but and so part of that was I'm going to listen to the call and just obey. And for the first time in my life, I never had like, it has to be this way in my plan and blah, blah, blah. I just like write the book. Okay, I'm going to do step one. It was literally my mantra every single day in the shower. I would write in the steam and I would write the book, speak about it, transform lives. And so it was because of writing every single day, pretty much, that I gained that mental clarity. I'm so sorry. Mental
Okay.
clarity and calmness. It
Right.
was it was therapeutic to write.
Yes. Yes. I find it remarkable when you hear something from God, when you know it's Him. Because sometimes we hear and we wonder, did I mishear? Was that me? But during the times when you absolutely know it's Him, boom, that's it.
I
It
mean,
puts wheels on it, right?
I've never had that experience before, and it was so apparent. It was so obvious, and I almost became I mean, I was fearing God in the best way, not scared, but just fearing that, okay, if I don't do this, then, I need to do it. I just
Right.
have to listen to the call.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think there comes a time where you are serving out of fear when that switches over to, of course, I'm going to do this,
yeah,
God. You've asked me to do this. How could I not do this after you've done what you've done?
definitely. That's exactly right.
Exactly. Tell us about Grayson now. I understand he's a big brother, but tell us how he's doing. How old is he?
So he is great. He turned 7 in July. There's three major things that you look for in a micro-preemie that could be issues, and that's the eyes, the brain, and the lungs, and
Mhm.
so, thank God all three are doing well. And so at 3 years old, however, he was diagnosed on the autism spectrum with ADHD. He's got initials after his name. Most parents want, like MD, DDS, and all these initials. He's got other initials. So he's been navigating the world as a neurodivergent, from the beginning. He's relentless in his pursuit of learning. He's a consummate learner. He loves to learn. He loves to read. And so he has been in therapy his whole life. He's had speech therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy. He goes to school 5 days a week, therapy almost every day, and he's a true inspiration.
Okay, all righty. Do you have any connection still with the hospital? Did you
Can
need
I
to step away for a second?
1 second? I'm so sorry. This
It's
will.
okay. Absolutely okay.
Okay. Sorry. Connection to the
Oh,
hospital. I'm back.
this is what editing is for.
Okay, good.
Do you still have any connection with the hospital?
I do actually in Mexico, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So in Mexico, yes, I have Dr. Campos's phone number. That's a whole nother thing. In Mexico, it's completely different experience. I had our original doctor, our IVF doctor, who's also the gynecologist. He was on speed dial, and Dr. Campos as well. I have his phone number. And so usually every year around Grayson's birthday, I send a picture and kind of an update, and he loves it. He replies back. Also, I worked with his son in Cancun at the same resort. So
Okay.
if I need to communicate more to him, because my Spanish and his English, I use Dr. Campos's son to help translate. And
Okay.
and recently he told me that he has a baby about the size of Grayson in the NICU right now in Mexico. And
Mm.
so yeah, so definitely sending prayers for that baby and that family.
Now you are the proceeds from this book. Tell us about that.
So it was I maybe waffled for about a day
Hmm.
of, okay, I'm gonna write a book, I'm gonna quote make money, right? And then it was a very, very clear, speaking that was, I cannot take a dime from this book. There's no way. With all the help that we've received, um, not only in prayers, but
The physical,
the
practical.
the dollars and the people coming here and going there and delivering and dropping off and all the things that people did for us. There's just
Yeah.
no way that I could take a dime from this. So all the net proceeds are going to be going toward, putting equipment into the NICUs in Mexico. And
Mhm.
obviously, we're going to be starting with Grayson's Hospital for Dr. Campos. But since he was born, we found out that they finally have a proper isolate. They have an incubator. Um,
Right.
yeah, so I selfishly I wanted to be the one to deliver that, but
Yeah.
I'm so thankful
As
that
long as they have it. Right.
right, exactly. So we're very excited and happy about that. Now he needs monitors. He said he needs proper monitors. So
Okay.
that's that's where the money
That's the
will
next
go.
thing. Let me ask you this. Now that you're some years out, I'm wondering about PTSD, depression, anxiety, lost memories, false memories, and how any of that differs or is similar to Diana's.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Well, you can see right now as I speak, sometimes I get choked up. It's now 7.5 years later.
Right.
Um, but every time I speak about it, I get so present to how much help we got and how
Right.
much we were able to. I mean, we had nothing. I mean, we literally stripped down to nothing, and we had to start over. And the way that the community came together, it's just that to me sometimes gets me more than anything else. It's just like, why? I don't deserve this. And so, um, there's absolutely PTSD. I never even believed in PTSD before this experience, and I'm just being transparent. I'm like, oh, that's just an excuse because you're emotional, but it is a real thing. I remember early on, we would hear a certain kind of beat, like a monitor, and it would just instantly bring us back to the sounds of the NICU, or we would be watching something on TV and, they're in the NICU, and I'm like, I can't. I look at Diana, she's a mess. I'm a mess. We're just like, I can't do it. So, so there's always weird trigger things. It's a lot more for us now, 7.5 years later. Um, I can hear people's stories. I can be present now and be there for them, but it definitely takes time. And it can be at any moment in time where just something just clicks, and you just
Mm,
lose it. You just lose it.
right.
So, yeah.
So it is there. When I heard you say this on another podcast that the people that buy the book from your website and you sign it, Grayson signs as well.
Yeah. So if you're in the US, we can ship to the US. Yes. So if you purchase the book on my website, you can have that option or Amazon, but
Mhm.
yeah. So in the beginning, Grayson was kind of excited about signing, and now he kind of doesn't like it, but we do it. He's got to practice his name anyway. So we say it's practicing your name, and once he gets settled, then he just starts signing.
I heard in another interview you said you made this comment, get with God before you need him.
Yes, that is a clear message that, I wish if I could just give any piece of advice to anybody, obviously you never want this to happen, but I feel that if we had our faith, if our faith was stronger going into this horrendous experience, I feel we would have had more calmness and
You're very.
clarity. Yeah, and just been able to deal with what all there was to deal with
Hmm.
better and more peaceful. So yeah.
Wow.
So I would urge everyone to get with God before you need him.
Okay, so you said you're on step two. You've written the book. Now
Yes.
you're getting the word out. What is the third step?
Is transform lives.
Okay.
Transform lives. And so however that looks, I my day job is to speak. I'm a trainer, sales trainer. So I'm like in class right now. Every single day I'm doing these. So this is my kind of my wheelhouse. So I love to be on stage and be able to really make a big impact for whoever's listening, for whatever they're dealing with and going through, but also, I feel that now the book has been out several months, like 7 months, and the sales have slowed down a lot, from the initial launch. And we needed a lot of books to put an incubator in book sales to put an incubator in Mexico. But I really feel strongly that, again, just obeying. I wrote the book. Now I'm speaking in on as many podcasts as I can and looking for avenues to speak in bigger venues because I really feel that there will be a connector on the other end
Right.
that will start to really make this movement happen and help out babies in Mexico and their families.
Exactly. Have you considered a TED Talk?
So that is definitely something that I have a different person that I did a podcast on.
Mhm.
She is has a connection to TED
Okay.
Talks. So
I can
yeah,
see that. I can see that.
I'm open to it. That's a little intimidating, but I know that if that's God's will, I'll figure it out.
Where can we find you? Where can our viewers and listeners find you online?
Yeah, so literally my is pretty much my name is on every social platform. So it's Brian Heilig, Heilig. That's my website, brianheilig.com. Facebook is my main page, my main avenue. We've got Instagram, Brian S. Heilig. And I'm on TikTok. I'm the Micro-Preemie dad. I'm still getting used to the TikTok platform. But
That
yeah,
moves too fast for me.
it's like, yeah,
I can't. I can't. It's so funny. My daughter, because I'm only on Facebook, my daughter says Facebook is for old people. And I'm
right.
like, that's what we're doing.
Exactly. That's where we're at.
That's what we're doing. Okay, so we're on the Healing Words podcast. I'm going to ask you the same five questions I ask all of our guests. We're going to use the first letter from the word words. And you've kind of answered this already. When did you know for certain that you would write this book? And this was a clear calling from God.
Yeah.
Now, during the writing, um, memories come up. Did it get so bad on some days you just had to stop and walk away?
It was an incredible process. I'm not a writer. I don't know how to write a book. I would watch a few YouTube things here and there, and then I found myself in procrastination, right? I've got to get the right app. I've got to get the right outline. I have to get the structure. I have to get the right computer. I have to get the right type of. And finally, I just said, I got to just write a word. And so I did the whole thing on like Google Docs and transferred it, I think, eventually to a Word document. But there, for me, I have an analytical brain, so I had to research. Okay, how do you write a book? How long is a book? Like a memoir? What's the average words? So I found that out, and then I'm like, well, I want to do it in a year. So if I divide that number of words by 12, I know how many a month. By 365, how many words a day? And then I'm like, well, how fast do I type? What's the average words per minute? So anyway, I broke it all
You
down to
covered all the bases.
yeah, I covered all. I figured that it needed to be 7 minutes a day
Oh my
to
goodness.
write the memoir in 1 year. And so I'm like, oh, I have 7 minutes. But what I didn't account for was all the emotions. It's like you start typing and you're just like, it's talk about PTSD, but bringing it all up again, and the boxes of Kleenex and going through it, like hysterically going through it. But on the other note of that is very therapeutic. So yes, there were times where I just couldn't write. or I would really be writing like 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there. I wrote the book in 15-minute increments pretty much. It's crazy.
Wow.
Morning.
Wow.
Yeah, it took 26 months.
Okay.
So my year goal was shot, but hey, we got it done.
Okay. Oh, for organize. How did you organize your day? Because you're working full time.
So there it is.
You
Yeah,
you have right.
I had to wake up early. I would wake up at 4 in the morning and so the good days when Grayson wasn't up, because he sleeps at all weird, wonky hours, I would get ready for work, and then I would sit at my dining room table and just type for as long as I could, 15
Mhm.
minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And then when Grayson had his mornings where he was up so early, I would just go to work, and I would be at work typing at 5 in the morning.
Mhm.
People would come in, what the heck? And I'm just like, I can't talk right now. I'm crying. I'm like a mess at work. And they're like, okay. Right. So I had to fit it in. And for me personally, I'm more creative in the mornings. So at night,
Yes,
there's no way at night I was fried.
exactly. Okay, or rear view. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself when you were standing in the middle of a hallway, your wife is this end and your son is this end?
Yeah, I would tell myself to lean way more to God in those moments. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's no question. Like just I'm that person that tries to do everything. Like I can fix it. I can do this. I can do that. I've got this, but I didn't
Mhm.
have this.
Right.
And I realized now looking back that I never had it. And
Mm,
so it would have been a lot more peaceful to just let God orchestrate it, even though he was, but knowing like, okay, I have the peace in that.
right.
Yeah.
So does it come automatically for you now if you face an obstacle that you just immediately like, let me just lay this down right now?
No, no.
Okay, okay. Why do we do that?
I don't know. It's ridiculous. It's just so silly. I mean, so hardwired for 48 years or whatever it was, I'm 49 now, just hardwired that way to try to create and make it all happen myself. It's just ridiculous. And so, Diana's a very good, person and beautiful human being to tell me to chill out and, here's a scripture and get put your nose in your Bible and, get back to that. Or I go to church and I hear something. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. you know, but
Well, yeah, I did promise that I would remember that.
yeah,
Right.
so it's a constant. I have to work on it every single day.
Okay, D, you've been very vulnerable, very open, but I'm wondering if there were things in your story you felt like, maybe I shouldn't put that in there. Maybe I should delete this. Maybe it's too much. Did you have any of those?
I, I didn't per se.
Mhm.
Diana, when she read it, she was like, you know, please, can you take out some of the profanity? And look, I wrote the book. I wrote the story was before I was saved. You know what I mean?
Right,
So
right, right, right.
okay, it's real and it's raw and it's exactly what was happening in that moment. And so, so I did change some of the,
Did you say gosh darn
yeah. Well,
instead?
it's better just to leave it out. Like, but there is, there's some profanity in there, a lot of it.
Yeah.
But that would be the one thing. Also, I did have a professional editor,
Yes.
and so she was able to help kind of make some clarifications and adjustments. And another person, my friend Matt, he's a professional author, and his book became a documentary and everything. So he was able to give me some phenomenal pointers. When you have English and Spanish, whenever you have a different language in a book, it's very difficult to make it all flow. So he
Right.
helped. It's more rearranging things, but I think from the beginning I mean, I think I wrote 70,000 words and it ended at 65,000.
Okay.
So there wasn't
Yeah.
a heck of a lot.
Okay. Okay. S, strengthened. How has the writing of this book strengthened you?
Well, just writing a book in general and actually getting it published and going through that process. Sometimes I don't take the time to go, I wrote a book, like
Yes.
Holy cow. And uh, the act of writing it, I think, strengthened my faith. It strengthened my coping, to
Mm.
be able to get over it in a way. I'm not, you'll never over it, but to be able to even have this kind of conversation. I mean, a year ago, I couldn't even talk. I remember my
And
first
then,
podcast,
and at that point, you were 6 years out.
and I had my first podcast, and after he goes, I understand you're emotional, but you kind of got to get it together. I was like, okay, got it. But but good advice, and it took writing the book and speaking about it multiple times to be able to even have a coherent conversation. So it strengthened, and I have to say, okay, it's not for me, it's not for me, it's not for me, it's for other people. And so there's the strength that comes to help other people.
Yeah, you're getting great reviews on it.
I'm
The-
so grateful for the reviews. Yeah, it's incredible. And look, none are paid, and there is a lot of friends and family, but there's a lot that aren't. And I'm just like, you really thought it was like it's a good book? Right?
yes,
So
very
yeah,
good book.
very grateful.
Excellent. I want to thank you so much for dropping by, for writing the book, and stopping by to talk to us about it. I'm going to put all of your contact information in the liner notes, and I know that our listeners and viewers will be dropping by your website.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate all that you do.
Thank you so much. And I'll see everyone next time on the Healing Words podcast. Bye
Okay.
bye.